May 26th, 2021. Check out the new hoodie, guys. Unmasked, unmuzzled, unvaccinated, unafraid. If you follow me on Instagram, you saw a picture of it with me and Carter and Mandy standing here, and we love it. So, all right, what do I want to talk about? All right, I haven't done a video in a while. I've just been uploading a ton of other information, which backs up a lot of science, or uploading science that backs up a lot of my views, because everybody, source, and it's like, look at my entire Instagram page, or go through my YouTube, or go through the playlists on my Fear versus Freedom YouTube channel. There's your sources. Okay, go do your own damn research. It's not my job. I'm just kind of pointing you guys in your own directions to make up your own choices. If your research, being thorough on both sides, leads you to the decision to vaccinate, well, that's totally up to you. For me, based on our own life experiences and the research that I've put together and found and gift wrapped to hopefully get you to look at it and lead you toward other research, lead you to not vaccinate, well, that's up to you as well. For us, that's our choice, to not vaccinate. Because guess what? We are made in God's image and likeness, and it is perfect. And the only people that can screw that up is man. And we need to do our best to honor God's divine design by utilizing other divine designs that are found in nature, that aren't manipulated by man's hand, genetically engineered, sprayed with poison. You get it. All right. So anyway, I was on PubMed doing some research, just searching for new data that's out there, and searching topics like vaccines and aluminum and all the things that I normally do. And I found a paper in the British Medical Journal that I thought was ridiculous. So let's visit it and discuss some of the points that they talk about. All right, this paper is called Vaccine Safety Issues at the Turn of the 21st Century. And this is written by Laura Conklin, Anders Havid, I don't know how to say that. Anyway, a few other people. In fact, it's really important to look at who's writing this type of stuff. And this is really more like an opinion piece that happens to be published in this medical journal. And pretty much everybody has deep ties to the pharmaceutical companies or the regulatory agencies. And Laura, the main author here, works for the CDC. Okay, who just happens to be a distribution arm of the pharmaceutical companies and receives billions of dollars of funding to distribute vaccinations. So you better believe this is just completely biased and full of conflicts of interest. All right, so I have some tabs open. I'm just going to talk through stuff. Again, you can take this for face value, but I don't, because I know how and why these regulatory agencies were set up, and they're basically here to protect the lies and deceive us, but that's my own opinion. All right, abstract. Global gains in vaccination coverage during the early 21st century have been threatened by the emergence of anti-vaccination groups that have questioned the effectiveness of vaccines to generate public distrust. We can't have distrust of vaccines and immunization programs. Really? Is this new? The emergence of anti-vaccination groups, is that really new? No. Anti-vaccine groups have been around as long as vaccines have been around, from the 1700s. And why? And who makes up these anti-vaccinated groups? The vaccinated. People that were injured or killed, or whose family members were injured or killed by these interventions. They don't just pop up for no reason. This manuscript summarizes 6 key topics that have been at the center of global discussion on vaccine safety during the early 21st century. Things like thimerosal in the multi-dose non-live vaccines, the aluminum adjuvants that are used in several non-live vaccines, autism and autoimmune conditions as possible consequences of vaccination, which is proven, a risk of immune overload with increasing numbers of vaccination, also proven, and detrimental non-specific effects of vaccination, and there are many, including everything previously mentioned here. For each topic, we describe the hypothesis behind the public concern and the evidence reviewed by the World Health Organization's Global Advisory Committee for Vaccine Safety, the GACVS. During 1999 to 2019 was when this committee was really looking at the safety, right? And any significant new data that has emerged since their conclusions were made. Although the scientific evidence on these issues overwhelmingly supports the safety of vaccines, which it does not, communication messages to caregivers and providers need to condense and convey scientific information in an appropriate way to address concerns contributing to vaccine distrust. In addition, there is a need for further studies specifically designed to address both positive and negative, non-specific effects of vaccination. That's the most important point right there. There is need for further studies specifically designed to address both positive and negative, non-specific effects of vaccination. The role of the committee will be increasingly important in evaluating the evidence and engaging in the global community in promoting and assuring the safety of vaccines in the decades to come as we move into an era in which we use new vaccination platforms, antigens, and formulations. That is a concerning statement telling you that we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg of what's coming when it comes to the vaccine program, and there is a lot more headed our way, and that is terrifying to consider. Now, if you want to know what the World Health Organization's Global Advisory Committee for Vaccine Safety has had to say, they did a summit back in 2019 where they discussed a ton of their safety concerns specifically. And I review some of that on my YouTube channel and on Instagram in a video called Only the World Health Organization Can Discuss Vaccine Safety. What do they have to say? If you haven't seen that, jump in there and take a look. I go over a lot of the things I talk about, and it's quite concerning, guys. It's a big, big deal. Back to this paper. What are some of the summaries, the summary of what they're talking about? So they already said some of it in the abstract. So from 1999 to 2019, the committee reviewed several key topics that have been in the center of the discussion of vaccine safety, and there are several, and it's a big deal. Evidence from multiple sources and epidemiological settings, including both pre-licensure and post-licensure data. Okay, pre-licensure data, practically non-existent. Why? Because they don't use an inert placebo when looking at safety in pre-licensure. They're always comparing the vaccine group to the control group, whose placebo is typically either another vaccine or the adjuvant, which is the biggest safety issue, the adjuvant, typically aluminum. So that's garbage. And the post-licensure data, which is what? VAERS, the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, which they're telling you right now is garbage. It's all coincidence. We can't consider this to be reality. Well, then why are we using it to evaluate safety? Well, for one, it's not complete. We know that it's only capturing about 1% of the reality of injury. So all the data they're using to evaluate safety is horribly incomplete and even fraudulent based on what they choose to use to get these approved in the first place. All right. The committee found a lack of association between different vaccinations or ingredients to autism, autoimmune conditions, and immune overload. Really? Is that true, or are they just kind of cherry picking and p-hacking their epidemiological data? Happens all the time. And in fact, that's exactly what they're doing. The first thing that people will say about anti-vaxxers like me is, so you're just cherry picking. And it's like, really? No, I'm just pulling the information that they chose not to let you see so that you can evaluate everything. Look at what they're showing you. That's great. But look at what they're telling you not to look at too before you make your choice. That's what you need to do. And that's not cherry picking. Okay. Their conclusion is that the non-specific effects of vaccines have consistently been and remain that the evidence is not sufficient to warrant changes in global immunization policy. Why? Because they're not even looking for the non-specific effects. So, of course, their conclusion would be there's no concern. However, further studies specifically designed to address both positive and negative, we already said this, needs to be done. Absolutely it does. Okay, introduction. Here's where it gets, right from the get-go, it's ridiculous. Due to the advances in modern medicine, due to the advances in modern medicine, the global community now benefits from greatly reduced rates of serious infectious diseases that used to be common. Bold-faced lie to open up their paper. Modern medicine did not contribute to the eradication of disease. Okay, let's see what the World Health Organization has to say about this. World Health Organization, right here, WHO.int, water, sanitation, and health. Opening statement. Water and sanitation is one of the primary drivers of public health. I often refer to it as Health 101, which means that once we can secure access to clean water and to adequate sanitation facilities for all people, irrespective of the difference in their living conditions, a huge battle against all kinds of diseases will be won. That says it all right there. It was clean water, sanitation, hygiene, roadways, refrigeration, plumbing. I can guarantee you right now, all you plumbers out there, God bless you. You have contributed to the eradication of disease far more than all doctors put together. So thank you to the plumbers. Moving on. Immunization is the largest clearly documented contributor to this progress, and vaccines may also play an increasingly important role in controlling the spread of antibiotic-resistant and antiviral-resistant organisms. Again, just a bold-faced lie. It's modern medicine itself that has created the problems of antibiotic-resistant and antiviral-resistant organisms because we're constantly being brainwashed to use antimicrobials and antivirals on everything, on our animals that we consume, on the plants that we consume, on ourselves. We're destroying life itself, and they're calling this success. It's garbage, guys. Now, they're saying that the threat of disease was a big deal until vaccination. Is that true? Now, if you haven't read Dissolving Illusions by Suzanne Humphries, you really should. This actually goes and looks back in history all around the world, showing that mortality, not morbidity. This isn't about cases versus deaths. Deaths, okay, this is where it really matters. Mortality reductions had already happened by over 99% in most cases. Anywhere from 95 to 99% reduction in mortality of all infectious diseases before the vaccines were ever introduced. Before. Now, for this video, I was going to bring you to dissolvingillusions.com to show you that graph data, but guess what? It's been jacked up. You can't access the graphs. You can't access all the information on her website anymore. Somebody's messing with this particular site because the data is that powerful. Go buy the book while you still can because it's very important historical context that everyone needs to understand. So, luckily I have some of this information screenshot and saved and posted, so let's look at some of this. Here's a graph showing measles, scarlet fever, and whooping cough. Okay, this one would have been the UK data over here. So you can see this just massive amounts of death in the late 1800s from a variety of infectious diseases. Well, you can also see that they follow a similar trajectory of decline to literally next to zero before the vaccines were introduced. So here's where pertussis vaccination happened, and a reduction in mortality of 99.74% before the vaccine came into place. And then way over here is where the measles vaccine came into place in 1968 in the UK. 99.96% reduction from peak here. Literally a statistical zero. In the US, same story. You got measles, scarlet fever, typhoid, whooping cough, diphtheria. All of the mortality rates following this drastic decline to basically zero before the vaccines came into place. I have a few other of those graphs. Measles, scarlet fever, typhoid, whooping cough, all following a drastic decline well before vaccination. I think we saw this one already. Measles, scarlet fever, whooping cough, diphtheria, and smallpox all following this similar trajectory of decline. And I have tons and tons of content on my Instagram highlights going over all of this information. So go do your research. It's also on my Fear versus Freedom channel on YouTube in the playlists. I have vaccines, herd immunity, polio, smallpox, you name it. The data's there. Go research it. This paper is bold-faced lies about the history of disease eradication. And eradication isn't even the proper end goal, because even though the mortality had gone down to basically zero, people still got the disease, and they actually benefited from it by having stronger cancer surveillance, stronger immune system in general, and better overall health, along with lifelong immunity instead of vaccines for life with boosters after boosters after boosters. So let's move on. Nevertheless, sustaining the gains in global vaccination programs requires maintaining public trust, means brainwashing the public to believe that this is important in both vaccine efficacy and vaccine safety, which neither are true. Misinformation on vaccinations, their ingredients, and their mechanisms of action is now easily perpetrated through social media and misinformed public figures. Numerous vaccine safety concerns have drawn much public attention over the last several decades and were reviewed in detail during the early years of the committee, an advisory committee established by the WHO in 1999. Again, go watch my video about some of their conclusions. Scientifically rigorous advice on vaccine safety issues of potential global importance. The committee terms of reference include the transparent review of the latest scientific data in all fields ranging from basic sciences to epidemiology concerning any aspect of vaccine safety of global or regional interest. Reports from the committee meeting are available at the public on the internet at their website. You can go watch it. You should. Since 1999, they reviewed the evidence on different vaccine components like thimerosal, aluminum, multiple times, and broad categories of adverse health outcomes, including autism, overloading the immune system, possible associations between vaccines and autoimmune syndromes, and increased mortality among vaccine recipients as possible nonspecific effects of immunization. Each of these issues has been linked to reduced public trust in vaccines and vaccine programs, as it should be. Because here's what happens. The threat of these issues happening is downplayed drastically by orders of magnitude, while the benefit of infection is not up for discussion at all, even though there's huge benefits from natural infection while you're a healthy individual, getting over it, having lifelong immunity, strong immune system, and increased cancer surveillance across the board. Now, therefore, a robust body of science evidence has been generated in the last several decades to assess the biological and epidemiological plausibility of the safety concerns and assurance that the safety of vaccines worldwide. It's all a bunch of manipulated garbage. My opinion. All right, so let's jump into aluminum. Aluminum is ubiquitous in the environment and is a component of many consumer products, including antacids, astringents, and antiperspirants. This is a true statement. This does not equal safety. In fact, aluminum, while being one of the, I think it's like the third most abundant element in the Earth's crust, that's true, but it wasn't ubiquitous in the environment until we made that happen in the late 1800s, around 1880 something. We started mining, oring aluminum and using it in manufacturing and using it in food products with aluminum salts and baking powders, aluminum foils, aluminum deodorants as an ingredient in other things, carrier. And guess what? Because it's there, doesn't make it safe. So many women that use aluminum-containing antiperspirants have breast cancer, and there is a causal relationship there. Okay, many other issues neurologically, and so in no way, aluminum serves no biological function at all ever in humanity. And we were never exposed to aluminum the way we are today in the air we breathe because of aerosol spraying in the skies, dust in the air, you name it. None of that happened naturally. We caused that, and it's not safe. We're paying a neurological and biological consequence from every administrative avenue, whether it's inhalation, ingestion, or injection. And injection is the worst, okay? When you eat aluminum, like 97 to 99% of it goes through the digestive tract and is eliminated by our excretory organs. When you inject aluminum, it's nearly 1,000,000 times more toxic because it doesn't leave the body and it's translocated from the injection site. Sometimes it's stuck in the injection site in granulomas, but other times most of the time it's translocated from the injection site to your organs, your liver, your kidney, your spleen, your heart, and your brain, causing chronic neurodegenerative disorders throughout the body, causing autoimmune disease. The data is clear and has been brought out by independent researchers over the past decade, really. So since the early 20th century, aluminum has been used as an adjuvant to enhance immune responses to vaccines in a variety of forms, including aluminum oxide, hydroxide, and soluble salts. The mechanisms of action is complex and includes direct stimulation of multiple immune receptors, therefore enhancing the body's natural immune response to the antigen. In short, we poison you, the body reacts, and lucky enough it finds the antigen that's tied to the poison. Concentrations of aluminum vary greatly among different vaccine products, primarily non-live vaccines ranging from none in MMR, because that's a live viral vaccine, to 1.5 milligrams of aluminum phosphate per dose in the DT vaccine. That's a massive dose. While daily aluminum exposure in humans can range from 0.06 milligrams a day, this is from inhaling particles in the air, again, very different than intramuscular injection, to 3,500 to 5,200 milligrams per day from antacid consumptions. And if you're doing that, you're just destroying your body's natural ability to balance pH, taking those antacids. Aluminum has been associated with encephalopathy and high intravenous exposures. Even intravenous is different than intramuscular, guys, such as those received through renal dialysis and intravenous nutritional products. Very different. Intravenous still is going through natural detox mechanisms through the kidneys and things, which causes problems in dialysis and things like that, renal failure. So these data have been used by organized groups that oppose to vaccination to hypothesize as a link between immunization and developmental delays and other adverse neurological outcomes. More recently, aluminum adjuvants have been alleged to cause poorly defined autoimmune syndromes. It does. Anyway, multiple high-quality studies have shown that children who receive vaccines containing aluminum adjuvants do not have aluminum in their blood or hair above the minimal risk levels established by the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry. First of all, these levels that they set are not safe. Second of all, any aluminum levels in the blood and in the hair are from kids whose detox pathways are actually working and they have the ability to eliminate some of this aluminum toxicity along the way. The kids that are injured, you're not finding those levels in the hair or the blood. Why? Because it's intracellular in the organs, in the bone marrow. We know it's stored in the bone marrow and causing systemic damage for life. All right. Blah, 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 the disease registry. And they are not at increased risk of adverse neurological outcomes. Yes, they are. The data is clear. The committee reviews the available safety data on adjuvants, including aluminum compounds, for the first time in 1999, specifically addressing a type of histopathological lesion of unknown origin called macrocytic myofasciitis. In 2004, the committee recognized the need for surveillance of vaccine adjuvant safety. Okay, first of all, here's what they're telling you for one thing. We've been using this since the early 1900s, right? Like 1940. In 2004, the committee recognized a need for surveillance. So one, they're going to say it's safe because we've been doing it for so long. Well, of all the people that got those injections back then, what's the number one issue we're facing today? Alzheimer's dementia. And we know if there was no aluminum, there wouldn't be Alzheimer's. So vaccine reactions, bad adverse vaccine reactions, aren't always acute issues that happen in the first few hours, days, or even weeks. We're talking decades down the road that we're starting to see the real long-term problems with the vaccine program. It is a slow, horrible kill. In 2004, the committee recognized the need for some better safety, particularly in low-income and middle-income countries, and made recommendations for the World Health Organization to consider developing a website for adjuvant contents of vaccines. In addition, the committee asserted for the role of the committee and WHO regarding adjuvant safety was to review and consolidate the evidence. After reviewing several studies in 2012 alleging an association between aluminum and autism spectrum disorder, the committee emphasized that the ecological studies should not be used to assess a causal association because these types of studies are unable to link exposure outcomes to individuals. During the same meeting in 2012, the committee also reviewed a pharmacokinetic model of aluminum-containing vaccines from the U.S. Food Administration. The results from this quantitative risk assessment showed that this is probably the most important sentence in this stupid paper that they hope you will overlook. Results from this quantitative risk assessment showed that the body burden of aluminum following the intramuscular injection of aluminum containing vaccines never exceeded the safe U.S. regulatory threshold based on what? Orally ingested aluminum, even for low birth weight infants. Do you see what they did there? The little trick, that sleight of hand that they'll never get it. The body burden from the injected aluminum, which stays with you forever, isn't higher than the thresholds we set based on oral ingestion. Holy shit, these criminals are killing our babies and ourselves, and we are going to go through some horrible symptoms of neurological decline. Every one of us, unless you learn how to take care of your body, support your detox pathways, and actually detox this crap. If you can. Some of this cannot come out for certain people. Pay attention, right? The details. Although the evidence on the safety of aluminum adjuvant is strongly reassuring, the public concern continues to be fueled by poorly designed studies and inaccurate extrapolation of such studies. As new vaccines and adjuvants are developed, continued safety monitoring is important during both pre-licensure and post-licensure to ensure safety of vaccines, address public concerns, and maintain trust. We have to maintain trust. Trust is all that matters, because if all we have to say is vaccines are safe and effective and we still have that trust, then we don't have to prove it. What a crap. What a bunch of crap. Man. All right. Just going to point to some studies here. Biopersistence and brain translocation of aluminum adjuvants of vaccines. We have the data. We know the macrophage comes, grabs the aluminum, carries it throughout the body, translocating it. Brain translocation of alum particles is linked to a Trojan horse mechanism previously described for infectious particles that obeys the CCL2 signaling, the major inflammatory monocyte chemoattractant. There's one paper you can go read. Here's another one. Immunoexcitotoxicity is a central mechanism in idiopathology and treatment of autism spectrum disorder, a role of fluoride and aluminum. You can find how this injected aluminum actually has a very strong affinity to fluoride, which is in most of our drinking water and we're all exposed to, and actually becomes an alumina-fluoride complex that can cross the blood-brain barrier, causing chronic immune stimulation in the brain and neurodegeneration. Aluminum in brain tissue in autism. This paper was published March of 2018, pre-release in November of 2017, and this shows the highest levels of aluminum ever recorded in the human brains comes from those kids on the autism spectrum disorder, and in high levels, as well as in Alzheimer's patients, Parkinson's patients, in the Alzheimer's amyloid plaquing, in the tau of the Parkinson's patients. It is in epilepsy patients like my son. This destroyed my baby. The neurodegeneration that he's experienced and continues to go through, it is hell on earth. It is hell on earth for him. It's hell on earth for us as his parents and his siblings to watch this decline. I'm not going to cry. The measurement and full statistical analysis, including Bayesian methods of the aluminum content of infant vaccines. This is a very important paper recently published. Will officially be published July of 2021, showing that the contents of aluminum within these vaccines aren't even what's stated on the label. In many cases, it's much higher, statistically significantly higher than what's stated, and in some cases lower. So it's literally a game of Russian roulette to know what's going to happen. Another one, slow CCL2 dependent translocation of biopersistent particles from muscle to brain. Conclusion, nanomaterials can be transported by monocyte lineage cells to DLN's blood and spleen, and similarly, HIV may cause CCL2 dependent mechanisms to penetrate the brain. This is aluminum, guys, aluminum that's going in. I already showed you that one. Non-linear dose response of aluminum hydroxide adjuvant particles, selective low-dose neurotoxicity. This basically shows that it wasn't dose dependent. In fact, in many cases, the smaller the dose, the worse the neurotoxicity, because it was able to get to the brain better. Where at that higher dose, the body recognized the danger and isolated it in a fibrous granuloma to isolate that so that it couldn't be translocated to the brain. So when you say, oh, it's just trace amounts, yeah, that's a huge, huge problem. All of it is. Don't inject your baby with poison. This is going to be a 4-hour video if I go through the whole thing. Thimerosal. I'm not going to read it all. You guys can go read this because we're just going to run out of time. Thimerosal is best known as a vaccine preservative. It's used on the live viral vaccines. Used in multi-dose vials of non-live vaccines for its antiseptic and antifungal properties. But they'll tell you in here, oh, it's been taken out. There was never a problem with it, one, they're going to say, and two, they're going to say it's been taken out. Both are a lie. There's huge, huge, huge correlation between the mercury and neurodegeneration, including autism, and it's not been taken out. It's just been changed to be a part of the manufacturing process, and it's still in the majority of vaccines. Okay, and that's on the FDA website. You can go to FDA, look at thimerosal. You look at thimerosal-free vaccines, preservative-free vaccines, and traditional vaccines. And they'll all tell you, one, that the multi-dose flu shot does still have thimerosal used as an ingredient, so it's at very high levels. All the others, it's still in the manufacturing process. There's still trace amounts that end up in the vaccine. It's still going to your baby's brain and causing autism. You want to know where to find some great information on that? Go to the Children's Health Defense, go to the menu, go to research, go to mercury, thimerosal, and autism. You'll be led to this amazing page that is just a library of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of studies. Okay, one link will take you directly to over 240 studies, the abstracts of them, or you can dive into all the mercury research, and it's all linked, all archived right here, gift wrapped for you to go in and read. And I also have a thimerosal playlist or highlight on Instagram, and a lot of this information in my YouTube as well. Okay, so thimerosal, huge problem. They're going to tell you it's fine. Then they talk about autism and say, nope, there's no correlation. You can't prove it. We've done our epidemiological studies, and it's genetic. That's a total BS. The best place that just blows all that out of the water is How to End the Autism Epidemic. J.B. Hanley wrote this, did a ton of research, sources all the science, just blows out of the water how it cannot be genetic for one, and definitely cannot be because we're diagnosing it more. And the data is all supported in here. It's clear as day. Okay, this is environmental, and there's many factors. Vaccines, probably one of the worst. Tylenol, glyphosate, Roundup, genetically modified garbage food, diesel pollution. Toby Rogers did a great piece on the true cost of autism, and he broke down a lot of the main environmental causal factors of autism. We know vaccines is one of them. Tylenol, glyphosate, diesel, and I think maybe coal. Anyway, vaccines for sure contribute. Tons of information on that. Go read How to End the Autism Epidemic. I highly recommend it. Oh, and then they say, oh, this great study came out in 2019. Let me see if I can find where they're talking about that. Let me just do a control find. 2019. Oh, man. Okay. I think I just skipped it. The Danish researchers revisited the MMR autism issue in 2019. This new cohort of 657,461 children, not included in the two previous studies, they found no association between MMR vaccines and autism. Do you want to know why? Because they didn't use any proper controls. They just took these massive group of kids over here, just a group of kids, and they say in the study, just so you know, very few people don't vaccinate in these groups. So you have this group of vaccinated kids that happen to also get the MMR in their vaccination schedule, compared against a group of vaccinated kids that just didn't happen to have the MMR. So you're going vaccinated against vaccinated and saying the MMR didn't cause autism. Well, if we're finding that aluminum is one of the main issues, including mercury and aluminum, and just sequential vaccination in general, then sure, we can look at it and say, well, MMR specifically didn't show a statistically significant spike, even though there was an increase there. Let me quickly just show you a clip of the high wire where Dell talks about this. Here we go.
It was higher. It did uptick higher, but they said it was statistically insignificant. Now, let me change this discussion. Let me explain to you in a simpler way. I could use this methodology and prove to you that being shot with a .45 caliber bullet does not increase your risk of death. You ready to watch this? Here's how this goes. I will make the scientific statement at the top of my study saying that there's a lot of people that are fearing being shot by a .45 caliber bullet, and we want to dispel the myth that it can kill you. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to compare people that were riddled with 5 different bullets while being shot in either a train station or however it happened. We'll find them all over the world. We'll comb the world for people that got shot with 5 bullets, just not a .45 caliber bullet. Then we're going to grab a group that got shot with 5 bullets plus a .45 caliber bullet. And in the end, when we compare these two groups, this comparative study, we recognize that the amount of death, the total number of people that died was really quite similar. There was a slight uptick in the group that got that extra .45 caliber shot to the head, but it was statistically insignificant. And so therefore, our study conclusion is that a .45 caliber bullet does not increase your risk of death. You see how I did that? See now, had you compare.
All right, you get the point. So basically, that's the value of that study. Okay, the 45 being the MMR, the other 5 bullets being all the other vaccines that these kids all got. And so yeah, they had similar amounts of autism in both groups, but a little bit higher in the group that also had MMR. So what a misdirection. Again, you can p-hack these epidemiological studies to show whatever conclusion you want them to. What about autoimmunity? Now they're going to go in and say autoimmune disease has a wide variety of different pathologies, which is true, associated between vaccines and chronic autoimmune conditions. It would include multiple sclerosis, thyroid disease, autoimmune encephalitis. There's many others, guys. Guillain-Barré syndrome, and so here's Guillain-Barré syndrome. Type 1 diabetes for sure, and they're going to go in here and tell you, well, we can't prove it, and again, just doing these garbage epidemiological studies. I wish I had more time to read all of this, but I don't. Anyway, go ahead and read this. Go read through their sourced studies, but also look at what they don't want you to look at. I'll just give you one example. This one, vaccination and autoimmune disease. It says, is prevention of adverse health effects on the horizon? Well, we wouldn't need prevention of adverse health effects if they didn't actually happen, which they're trying to tell you it doesn't, when in reality it does. This great paper, I've posted lots of slides to my Instagram specifically from this paper, but it actually goes through each shot with different autoimmune diseases causally associated with each shot, right? Hepatitis B, tetanus, anthrax, MMR, BCG, smallpox, diphtheria, influenza, pertussis, again, hepatitis B, Haemophilus influenza B, associated with what? Lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, reactive arthritis, polymyositis, and dermatomyositis, anyway. Guillain-Barré syndrome, type 1 diabetes, thrombocytopenia, and Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Who do you could probably know a half a dozen people in your social circles that are struggling with Hashimoto thyroiditis. And I'm sure you know somebody with type 1 diabetes. I'm sure you know somebody with rheumatoid arthritis. This all ties back to vaccination. Is it the only thing? No. But is it a huge causal reaction or causal association? Absolutely. Vaccines, specifically aluminum adjuvanted vaccines, as well as the other ones that are loaded with human DNA from being cultured in aborted fetal tissue. They'll tell you the DNA has been taken out, but no, that's not true. And you should look at the research of Teresa Deischer, and you'll figure that out right away. So they're going to tell you, let's see, what's their conclusion here? The temporal association of the autoimmune disease vaccination is not sufficient to support a causal relationship. BS. And the global evidence supports that vaccines do not increase the risk of autoimmune disease. That's hilarious. Over the past 50 years, we've had over 100 different new diagnoses of autoimmune diseases that have popped up. So what a joke. Anyway, go read that. Go read the other information. Come to your own conclusions. Obviously, I've come to mine. Immune overload. Here's where it gets stupid. And you've heard this from Paul Offit before. The number of antigens recommended by the World Health Organization expanded program on immunization to be delivered in routine immunization schedule during infancy has increased over the past few generations from 6 in 1974 to 12 antigens in 2019. The concept of immune system overload from any vaccination is poorly defined, but generally refers to the belief that the body has either a reduced response to multiple antigens given at the same time, or that an individual is more vulnerable to other infections over vaccination due to the immune system weakened by response to multiple vaccine antigens. What they're going to tell you down here, still, it is estimated that infants have the theoretical capacity to respond to about 10,000 vaccines at any given time, and that only 0.1% of the immune system would be used up if 11 vaccines were administered at one time. Okay, what do they mean by that? They're only talking about the antigen dose, that dose of exposure of antigens, that viral or bacterial load combined, that the immune system can handle 10,000 vaccines at once. And that even getting 11 at once is only using 0.1% of the immune system. This is another misdirection because all they're going to focus on here is the antigen. We're not scared of the antigen. They program you to be terrified of the antigen and that you must get vaccinated because the virus is so scary, right? But then they're telling you it's so scary that you could receive 10,000 vaccines at once and be A-okay. What they're not considering in this number of 10,000 vaccines is all the other ingredients. The combined amount of aluminum, formaldehyde, polysorbate 80, antibiotics like neomycin, the animal products, the genetically engineered animal cultures, the tumor cells that are in there, the human DNA that's in there. None of that's being taken into consideration in this 10,000 vaccines given at any moment. If anything, this should tell you that infectious disease really isn't all that scary. Okay? You can receive 10,000 vaccines with the amount of antigen that's in that antigen, virus, bacteria that's in that vaccine. But they're going to tell you, stand 6 feet apart from somebody and wear a mask so that you don't get too much of a viral load from somebody's sneeze. They're full of crap. Pay attention. All right. So immune overload is a total lie. It's not about the antigen, it's about the other toxins in each vaccine. And yes, 11 is an extremely high amount, and most babies that die from sudden infant death syndrome die within 72 hours of their 2-month, 4-month, or 6-month well-child checkup, which you should never go to unless there's some red flag. And you do you. But yeah, those appointments with 5 or 6 vaccines are killing babies because of that high levels of aluminum and mercury in human DNA all combined. Moving on. Non-specific side effects. So, 45 minutes. I'm running out of time. All right. Non-specific effects. Non-specific effects of vaccines, whereby vaccination induces protection from the susceptibility to infection, not targeted by the vaccine. So what they're going to tell you, and you might hear this with the new threat is, oh, the MMR will protect against it. Oh, we're finding that the DTaP also protects against it. And that what's the one that they do in Europe but not here? The BCG, that one protects it. So those are non-specific effects that they're telling you there's even benefits from the vaccine that weren't designed to happen. But they won't look at the other side and look at all the adverse reactions that are non-specific effects, like higher mortality, right? In Guinea-Bissau, Africa, right here, they're talking about how the DTP vaccine, those that got it and just got DTP, had a 10 times higher death rate, and those that got DTP plus polio had a 5 times higher death rate than those that didn't get the vaccines at all. Well, that's just an anomaly and not a real non-specific effect. Well, it is. Go look at the data. So go read this, go read the information, and Dr. Humphreys has some great videos. All of them touch on non-specific effects, but she has one actually called non-specific effects of vaccines. I think it's actually called Vaccines Forever, non-specific effects. And basically showing you that you're going to have to vaccinate your whole life if that's what you want to rely on for immunity, other than just getting the illness, getting immunity, and being immune for life. So, there's so many non-specific effects, including cancer, including autism, including epilepsy, including paralysis, including death. You got to look into all of that. Let's look at their stupid conclusion. We'll wrap up. During the 20th century, global immunization efforts have seen unprecedented gains. An estimated 116.5 million children completed a 3-dose series of DTP-containing vaccine in 2016 alone, compared to only 24.2 million in 1980, which is funny because they're going to tell you that we're facing this existential threat because of anti-vaxxers reducing vaccine coverage, and yet here we are with the highest vaccine coverage in the world that we've ever experienced, and we have the sickest population in the world. The sickest kids ever. Chronic illness everywhere. But it's the anti-vaxxers that are the threat, or the vaccine hesitant. This progress has been accompanied by an abundance of data on the safety of immunization and their components. This abundance of data. Although sometimes with conflicting results. As an independent scientific advisor board, this committee has played an essential role in critically reviewing the available body of evidence on vaccine safety issues that ensure public trust. Public trust, there it is again. We got to have that. Public trust in vaccination is maintained. The issues that have been central to the discussion on vaccine safety in the 21st century highlight the importance of robust scientific studies. You're right. We do need robust scientific studies. How come they haven't been done? How come they weren't done before the approval of the majority of the vaccine schedule since the 1990s? For multiple disciplines to make adequate conclusions on the safety of each vaccine at a global level. This includes both pre-licensure and post-licensure safety assessments and surveillance data from multiple sources in epidemiological settings. The new Global Vaccine Safety Blueprint V2.2.0 emphasizes the role of adequate country safety surveillance systems. However, only 64% of the countries met with WHO's minimum criteria for functional safety in 2015. Even when such data are available, their interpretation may be complex and has the potential for ambiguity, ambiguity for sure, that may contribute to vaccine distrust. That is valid, guys. The people that have distrust, by far the majority of them are vaccinated. People who had that trust and realized their trust was misplaced when they were injured or when their loved one was injured or killed. Communication messages regarding vaccine safety need to incorporate subtle science to effectively address public concerns. Social engineering. With new vaccines under development and the potential for additional antigens to be added to the routine schedule, the new one being one that's going to be added in the next decade, with many more to come, literally hundreds and hundreds in the pipeline right now. This is why they have to get you to believe. Explanations about dosing schedules and basic immune system function are particularly important to reduce fears and encourage timely dosing. Do as you're told. Yeah, right, guys. Do your research. This includes translation of the committee's decisions into tools and other resources to help healthcare providers communicate effectively with caregivers when the data clearly support or disprove the safety of immunization, as well as when the data are less clear regarding the specific outcome of public concern. So we need to train the healthcare front line to be able to emotionally convince their patients to do as they're told, whether the safety data is there or not. The WHO has been working with global partners to establish global resources such as the Vaccine Safety Net. Communication strategies bolster community confidence and allay public concerns when they arise. Although some of the data presented here have come to light since the committee's last convened for a formal review, they further support the committee's conclusion. As we move into a new era of new vaccination platforms, antigens, and formulations, the role of the committee will be increasingly important in decoding the evidence and engaging the global community in promoting and assuring the safety of vaccines in decades to come. All right, bottom line, safety of vaccine never been established. What they'll want to tell you is they've been used for so long that the general public is the safety data. Well, just look around, guys. We're as sick as we've ever been. Obesity, gastrointestinal issues, Crohn's disease, colitis, so much neurological issues, learning disabilities, anxiety, depression, ADD, ADHD, epilepsy everywhere. I hate it with a passion. Autism everywhere. 1 in 32 about now. Okay, CDC will tell you 1 in 54. Who cares? That's ridiculous. It used to be 1 in 10,000. This is not about diagnosing better, and it's not about genetics. There are genetic dispositions. Those epigenetic susceptibilities have to be expressed by an environmental factor. What are some of the ones we know? I've already said them. Vaccination, Tylenol, Roundup, Roundup's everywhere. Everywhere. Pollution, plastics, other things. We know that. But vaccines is one you have control over. Learn the history of disease. These diseases are not dangerous. 99.999% of all of these diseases, 99.9999 whatever percent of the world population was unharmed by all of them. You've been lied to by the media forever to get you to fear infectious disease and to buy into manufactured protection and manufactured perception of health. Okay, health comes from yourself, how you feed yourself, your activity levels, your exposure to poisons in your environment. You start to actually acknowledge your environment, get rid of fragrances, get rid of chemicals in the home, open up the windows and reduce the amount of recycled dust with flame retardants and the PBDEs and the plastics in the home and everything that you're exposed to, including vaccines and pharmaceutical drugs and over-the-counter drugs, all of these contributing to the destruction of your health. The genetically modified foods that are in the diet, the additives, the preservatives, the colors, the flavor enhancers like MSG and aspartame, all of these things matter. And vaccines are not the savior. They are not. They are just a powerful tool that have been socially engineered that the public believes saves them when you are your savior. You and God. God made you perfectly, and you have the opportunity to thrive. Now, because of man's intervention, we have been damaged along the way, and this has permanent consequences, especially vaccination and genetically engineered foods. We know there's transgenerational effects that are changing our genetics, we're getting gene mutations, it's changing our DNA, and things like this are happening from the injections and from the interventions made in the food supply. Zach Bush has done a really, really, really great 3+ hour video on the history of GMOs. I'm trying to see if I'm out of time here. I'm pretty much out of time. I'm just going to wrap it up. Go do your research. Along the way, if you haven't recognized it yet, you will recognize it. You are amazing. You are divinely designed. Your body is a temple. Don't poison it. Honor it. And in that honoring of your body, you will find that comes from nature. The answers are already given to us, and they are all around us, from the sun to the soil. Learn to trust God, and learn to honor yourself and your family, your kids. And we can turn this around. It will take a few generations, but we can rewild humanity and put nature back into humanity. All right, guys? Hope this helped somebody. Love you. Bye.